All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the session. Thank you for coming in for this, our May 2022 session of Live Sacred Space. As always, I'm honored to be with you here in this time of sensitivity and uncertainty, and I look forward to sharing time with you in our shared sacred space today. So today, what we're going to do, we're just going to have one of our regular sessions. And the agenda is we'll go ahead and set sacred space in just about 90 seconds here. And then after we set sacred space, we'll talk about an overall topic. And the topic for this month's session is how to find your purpose in life. How to find your purpose in life. As you know, in nerd mode, topic that's near and dear to my heart. And I'm always excited to find a new and different way of bringing the conversation back to the topic of how to find your purpose in life. And then to, go get it and do it. We'll have an exercise related to that after the talk, and then we'll close sacred space. So I'll go ahead and start the process of opening sacred space now. And to begin, I'll just say that what we would like to do here, what our intention is to create a space which together, which is devoid of fear, threat, and control. In order for us to open to higher guidance from within our own selves, however we define that. It could be a muse, it could be intuition, it could be random, brilliant flashes of insight. It could be a deity, God, goddess, higher guide, spirit guide, however you think of that. But a safe sanctuary space for us all to be able to relax and surrender with no feeling of danger or threat, so that we can open to this guidance and then also partake of the nourishment, the emotional nourishment, the spiritual nourishment that comes from being in sacred space together as a group. And in opening sacred space today, I will propose, as I do every session, that we all follow to the best of our ability the 4 principles of Presidian sacred space. The first principle being confidentiality, standard Vegas rules. What happens in sacred space stays in sacred space. Now, that's the rule or principle that we follow when we're in person. Right, so when just in the past couple of weeks, we've had sessions in Paris and sessions in Athens where we've gathered in small groups and done sacred space in person. Finally, after a long period of pandemic and no travel. But here online, when we do sacred space, the stream is public, the chat is public, the replay will be public. So the way we handle sacred space online is via anonymization. So if you would like to be, the way we handle confidentiality online is via anonymization. So if you would like to be anonymous, you don't have to be anonymous, but if you would like to be anonymous, you would come into the Crowdcast stream, go into the edit profile feature, and then just change your username to Harry Potter, Mickey Mouse, whatever you like, and then come back in and continue chatting, texting, asking questions. As you feel so moved. The second principle is that as much as possible, we would like to refrain from creating in other people or even in ourselves no feeling of threat, no feeling of controlling, no feeling of the wagging finger, you should do this, you better do that, regardless of the intention. So obviously, try not to be hostile to each other in the chat or otherwise. But even if it's well-intentioned, even if you're like, well, you mentioned you have this problem, let me tell you how to fix that. Let me tell you what you should do. Okay. So even if it's well-intentioned, we don't do tough love. We don't do interventions. We don't do fixing in sacred space. Because not that there's anything wrong with that, but because that motion requires the exercise of fear, threat, and control. right? Eat your broccoli or else you're not going to grow big and strong. That's a threat. It's a well-meaning threat, but it's still a threat. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but we refrain from that here because we're trying to categorically create a space that is devoid of fear, threat, and control. So the minute we do that, however well-intentioned, the sacred space kind of evaporates. Said another way, we are holding space for each other to be however we are, and we just hold space for that. So if you're afraid, if you're anxious, if you're angry, we hold space for that. If you're happy and relaxed, we hold space for that. And then we hold space for how you feel about how you feel. So if you're happy and relaxed and you're chill and cool with that, that's great. If you're happy and relaxed and you feel guilty, there's so much stuff going on in the world. How could I possibly feel okay about feeling happy and relaxed? We hold space for that. So that's the second. The third principle is a corollary to the first two, which is no commerce, right? So nothing may be sold. I can't sell you anything. Gowrie, my editor, who will be on screen in a moment, cannot sell you anything. Please refrain from pitching stuff to each other in the chat. And that also covers suggestions. So even if I recommend something like a book that could really help you with, whatever you're grappling with right now, and I don't receive any, financial benefit from it, we refrain even from that, because even a recommendation is a kind of, however well-intentioned, threat. Because if you don't read the book, you might miss out, right? So FOMO is a threat. All of these things are a threat. And, we're human. It's not going to be perfect, but in sacred space, we just try our best to refrain from commerce, to refrain from recommendations and suggestions. Said another way, we are here for your energy, not for the things you bring. We are here for the essence of what you are. Not for what you do or any value add that you provide. Okay. And the final principle is, again, related. No expectation of participation. There's no pressure to do anything. You can chat, not chat. You can stay, you can leave. You can watch the replay in part or in full. You can blast the link to your friends and invite your friends in. You can keep it completely confidential and to yourself. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Because, again, the nourishment comes from the held space and your presence and attention as you feel so moved from what you are, not from what you do or provide. Right? So there's not even any wagging finger to say, you should come into sacred space and you should stay in sacred space because it's good for you. It's like, we don't even do that here. It's like, come and go as you please. And if you want to join only if you want. If we suggest exercises later on, you do them only if you want. Right? If you don't do them because you don't feel like doing them, you're not missing out on anything because there is no threat. Right? That's the essence of sacred space. So those are the four principles. And all of us doing them together in a group will tend to amplify the nourishing effect of it. So anyway, yeah, that is what I propose for the session, as I propose for every session. And that is the space we will be moving into together in just a moment. But just to pause, if you are not okay with sharing space and creating space like that at this time, that's totally okay. There's no pressure for you to move forward either. We're just going to pause here for just a moment to give everyone a chance to make your own sovereign decision on whether you would like to continue into this space with a group. And if you decide to withdraw, that's totally okay. We'll still be friends. We'll still catch up later. I'll still send you emails if you're on my email list. And we'll still hang out. No worries at all. Okay. So I'll just pause for a moment here to let everyone make their selection and dial that in. Okay. All right. Okay. So then for the rest of us, we will now move together into our shared sacred space. And as we cross the threshold now into our shared sacred space, I will just gently remind everyone, myself included, that we are now in a space where we will observe, to the best of our ability, the four principles of proceeding in sacred space: confidentiality / anonymization, No fear, threat, or control, no fixing, no interventions, no tough love, no commerce, no recommendations, and no expectation of participation. Welcome back to our sacred space for this month. Such a happy time always, and thank you for sharing this space with us. Okay, so let's do our topic. So our session topic for this month is going to be how to find your purpose in life. And the way we came back to this topic is that for this session, Gary, my editor, who you all know her, found a tale from the Burmese folktale tradition. And I don't think we've read anything from the Burmese tradition yet in the 2 years we've been doing these sessions. And that story led us into a reflection on the power of the muse and the power of the inner feminine in guiding you to your highest life purpose, and guiding you really to the deepest treasure of your own inner kingdom. Okay. And I think when we unpack the story and tell it, all this will become more clear, but that's kind of what our topic is. So at this point, I'd like to invite Gary on screen. Gary, if you're there, and tell us about the story you've selected. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Artie. Hi.
Welcome back. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
All right. So if you want, tell us about the story you've selected for this one.
Okay, so the story, like you said, it's from the Burmese tradition. And so I actually picked it up from this book. It's been lying around, and I've never actually read the full book yet. And I picked it up to, find something different, like a different tradition and a different kind of motif or pattern. And I came across this story.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. This, for everyone, this gives you some sense of what it's like to be Gary and have her library where you have a book on Burmese folktales just lying around. I don't have a book on Burmese folktales lying around my library. Do you? I don't. Do you? Yeah. So thank you, Gary. Thank you for being you. Thank you. We honor you. Thank you.
Like you collect seashells when you're on the beach. Like I was like, I'll have this one and I'll have this one, and I just hoard them around and not read them until.
To the benefit of us all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
continue.
So I intended to pick something unfamiliar and something different, which had different symbols and motifs. And I know that everything will kind of come back to the same theme, a bunch of themes that we talk about here, but the symbols and the kind of imagery could be different, right? But when I started reading this story, it just felt so familiar, like all the stories we've done before. And I was like, wait a minute, is this even Burmese?
Yeah, it's Burmese. It's completely like alien as far as we're concerned in our
so I mean,
right?
why does it sound like a European fairy tale?
Yeah.
Right. So that's what struck me. And then but it is significantly different in the way it takes the plot forward, although the motifs are all the same. So it's absolutely fascinating for me that we find stories with very similar, almost exactly the same themes, and the same symbolism in absolutely random places in the world, right? And not connected in terms of their ancestry, in terms of their storytelling tradition. They're just so diverse and so different, and yet we find something so similar. So that was fascinating for me, and also the fact that it takes a very common story, which is so commonly known in the European tradition, and there is a twist to it, which is very, very, very different. So that's what I hope to explore when I brought this up.
I love it.
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yes, please. I can't wait now. Even though I've already heard it, I can't wait to hear it again.
read from the book, and the
Okay.
story is
Okay.
called "The Frog Maiden."
Ding,
Which
ding,
is,
ding, frog.
yeah.
Anyone keeping notes? Anyone keeping
Exactly what
track?
it's all about. Yeah. So the Frog Maiden, right? So the story starts with an old couple who are childless, as this always goes, right? And the husband and wife longed for a child. And so finally, when the wife found that she was pregnant, they were overjoyed. But to their great disappointment, the wife gave birth not to a human child, but to a little she-frog, right? And so when the little frog spoke, she behaved as a human child. And not only the parents, but also the neighbors came to love her, and they called her Little Miss Frog. And some years later, the mother died, and the man decided to marry again. And the woman he chose was a widow with 2 ugly daughters. And they were very jealous of Little Miss Frog's popularity with the neighbors. And so all 3 took delight in ill-treating Little Miss Frog. And one day, the youngest of the king's 4 sons announced that he would have a hair washing ceremony on a certain date. And he invited all young ladies to join in the ceremony, as he would choose at the end of the ceremony one of them to be his princess. So on the morning of the appointed day, the 2 ugly sisters dressed themselves in fine garments, and with great hopes of being chosen by the prince, they started for the palace. And Little Miss Frog ran after them and pleaded, saying, "Sisters, please let me come with you." And the sisters laughed and said mockingly, "What? The little frog wants to come. The invitation is to young ladies and not to young frogs." And so Little Miss Frog walked along with them towards the palace, pleading all the time for permission to go along. Right? But the sisters were adamant, and so at the palace gates, she was left behind. But here's the beauty of it. She spoke so sweetly to the guards at the gate that they let her go in. And so Little Miss Frog found hundreds of young ladies gathered round the pool, full of lilies in the palace grounds, and she took her place among them and waited for the prince. And the prince now appeared, and there was this elaborate ceremony, and he washed his hair in the pool. And the ladies also joined in the ceremony. And at the end of it, the prince declared that as all the ladies were beautiful, he couldn't make up his mind, and he did not know whom to choose. And so he would throw a posy of jasmines into the air, and the lady on whose head the posy fell would be his princess. And the prince then threw this posy into the air, and all the ladies present waited to see, expectantly who it would fall on. And the posy fell on Little Miss Frog's head, to the great annoyance of the ladies, especially the 2 stepsisters. And the prince, he was also disappointed, but he felt that he should keep his word. So Little Miss Frog was married to the prince, and she became Little Princess Frog. And sometime later, the old king called his 4 sons to him and said, "Well, my sons, I'm too old to rule the country now, and I want to retire to the forest and become a hermit. So I must appoint one of you as my successor. And as I love you all alike, I will give you a task to perform, and he who performs it successfully shall be king in my place. And the task is to bring me a golden deer at sunrise on the 7th day from now." So the youngest prince went home to little Princess Frog, and he told her about this task. And she said, "What? Just a golden deer? Okay, that's fine. Eat as usual, my prince, and rest as usual. And on the appointed day, I will give you the golden deer." Right, so the youngest prince, so convenient, right? So stayed at home while the 3 elder princes went into the forest looking for this golden deer. And on the 7th day, before sunrise, little Princess Frog woke her husband up and said, "Go to the palace, prince, and by the way, here's your golden deer." And the young prince looked and rubbed his eyes and looked again. And there was no mistake about it. The deer which little Princess Frog was holding by a lead was really made of pure gold. So he went to the palace, and to the great annoyance of his brothers, who had all brought ordinary deer, he was declared as the heir to the king. Now, so the elder princes were not convinced by this, so they pleaded for a second chance, and the king reluctantly agreed. He said, "All right, I'll give you a second task, and on the 7th day from now, at sunrise, you must bring me the rice that never becomes stale and the meat that is ever fresh." And so the youngest prince went back home and told his wife about it. And she said, as usual, "Don't you worry, eat as usual, sleep as usual, and on the appointed day, I will give you the rice and meat." And so the youngest prince stayed at home while the 3 elder princes went in search of this, exotic rice and meat. And on the 7th day at sunrise, little Princess Frog woke up, and she woke her husband up and said, "My lord, go to the palace now, and here's your rice and meat." And the youngest prince went to the palace, and yet again, the elder princes had failed. So he was declared the king. Now, this time, once again, the 3 brothers pleaded for one more chance. And the king said, "This is positively the last task. On the 7th day from now at sunrise, bring me the most beautiful woman on earth." So the elder princes went, "Ho ho, this is the final task, right? But there is no way that the youngest prince can win this time, right? Because our wives are beautiful. We're just going to bring our wives to the king and show them off, right?" So the youngest prince overheard this, and he felt really sad. And he went back to his home. He knew in his mind that his wife was a frog. She was ugly, so there's no way he could take her. So he would have to find, the most beautiful maiden on earth, so to speak. But when he went home, he told his wife about this. He said, "My dear princess, I must go and look for this most beautiful woman on earth. My brothers have it easy. They said they will bring their wives. But this time it's tough for me." And so the Princess Frog said, "Well, don't you fret. Eat as usual, sleep as usual, and you can take me to the palace on the appointed day. And I shall be declared the most beautiful woman on earth." And the prince looked at her in surprise. And he really was doubtful. But, he didn't want to hurt her feelings. So he said gently, "All right, okay, my princess, if that's what you say, I will take you with me on the appointed day." So on the 7th day, at dawn, little Princess Frog woke up, and then she said to the prince, "My lord, I must make myself beautiful, so please wait outside and call me when it is nearly time to go." And so the prince left the room as requested, and after some moments, he shouted from outside, "Princess, it is time for us to go." And she said, "Please wait, my lord, I'm just powdering my face." And after a few moments, the prince shouted again, "It really is time to go." And she said, "All right, please open the door for me, I'm ready." And the prince thought to himself, perhaps just as she was able to obtain the golden deer and the wonderful rice and meat, maybe she will make herself beautiful. And he expectantly opened the door, but all he saw was that little Princess Frog was still a frog. But again, to not hurt her feelings, the prince said nothing, and he took her along to the palace. And when the prince entered the chamber with his frog princess, the 3 elder brothers were already there with their wives. And the king looked at the prince in surprise and said, "Where is your beautiful maiden?" And to that, the frog princess replied. She said, "I will answer for the prince, my king. I am his beautiful maiden." And then she took off her frog skin. And in her place stood a beautiful maiden, the most beautiful maiden on earth, in silk and satin. And the king declared her as the most beautiful maiden in the world, and then selected the prince as the successor to the throne. And at this point, the prince asked the princess never to put on this ugly frog skin ever again, and the frog princess, to accede to his request, threw the skin into the fire. So that's the story of the frog maiden. Artie, do you want to come back on?
Whew.
Hi.
Hi. That was powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think I was in Paris and like half awake and half distracted when you read that the first time, and now I'm like sitting in full presence, and it's hitting me even harder. Thank you. Okay, so let me ask my usual question to start off, which is, where do you enter into that story?
Right, like I said, it was fascinating to me that I found something from an Asian tradition which was just so similar to the Frog King story. I'll add a link later if anyone wants to go back to the story and listen to it. There's a SoundCloud link. So there's the Frog King story from the Grimm's Brothers tradition. There's the Frog Princess story, I think from the Slavic and Russian tradition. There's so many of these motifs that come there. So at first, my question was, do we really want to revisit all of these themes again or go for something different? And my muse told me that we need to go back to the original Frog King story where this all started, because there's so much more to explore. This is what she said. There's a lot to explore, and it will be good to cover the old ground again. So I said, all right, and let me kind of read it again. So I went through it again, and what struck me was that not just a frog king and the frog princess, but there were all these other stories as well, which I think I'll come back to once you've shared your insights. There are at least like 4 or 5 different stories that we've covered before that haven't touched upon again. And I could pick them out. And that's what really convinced me that this is the story for us, because there's just one story that packs in so much of what we've already covered, but then still brings something new to the table. So I was absolutely fascinated with that.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, should I give some notes as well?
Yeah, so if you could share your insights.
And just, I know you're going to like go off screen, but just come back in the middle anytime, or just stay on screen.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay on screen. Yeah.
Okay. No pressure, no expectation of participation, I guess. Okay, so the first thing I want to give the sort of setup here is, for those of you who are not familiar or who may have forgotten, the way we read these stories is the same way we read dreams, even real life scenarios when we work with our advisees. And that is that we read these with a mythopoetic lens. And basically all that means is it's a fancy word for saying that we regard every major actor in the story as being a symbol of a different part of your own inner self. Okay, so here, the frog is a symbol of you. Um, the meat and rice is a symbol of you. The hair that is being washed in the ceremony is a symbol of you. The prince is a symbol of you. Um, the nasty sisters, the nasty brothers are all symbols of you. And so then the way we sort of take in the story is we start at the beginning, we press play, we let the video of the story unfold, the narrative. And then we kind of take note of like who's getting ahead, who's doing better, who's doing worse, who's transforming, who's doing what to whom, is a huge point of physics to keep in mind. And then from that, we let the message or the symbol kind of uncoil itself for us. And then we just take nourishment from it. Right. So in this story, we have a story centered on the image, one could say the archetype of a frog. Okay. And we've covered this in a lot of other places. The frog king in the mythic healing program that many of you have access to from way back. There's the frog princess story. I think the frog king story, Gary will share the SoundCloud of it. There's just so much to say about the frog archetype. But the quick thumbnail for everyone here is that the frog in these stories is a symbol of your inner exile, the inner part of you that is typically dismissed, and not just like you're at war with this part of yourself. It's not even that, because if you're at war with someone, at least you respect them as a threat, as an equal. With the frog, it's even deeper than that. It's the part of you that you dismiss offhand without even a second thought. Right? And if someone like me or Gary were to point out, what about that? Your reaction is not, oh, no, don't look at that. Your reaction is actually, what about what? And it's like, well, that's just that's not even a thing. Like, what are you talking about? Right? That's how buried this part of you is. And that's okay. We all have parts of us that are like that. So the part of you that is so deep and deeply exiled that you dismiss it without even a smidgen of guilt, because it's so not a part of you that it doesn't even occur to you that you're committing a violence against yourself. Okay. And this is what the frog symbolizes. For those of you who were in the live in-person gathering that we had in Athens, Greece, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? And some of you who are in, so the programs, we do the same exercise. It's that magic wand exercise, right? The magic wand exercise is the one that brings us into direct confrontation or connection with the deepest frog part of us. And so even though we exile it, this part of you is powerful in its own right, right? It's still a valid part of you. You can exile it all day long. It's still a part of you. And it has power. Just like your heart, liver, and lungs are valid parts of you, if you exile them and abuse them, they have power. If I don't have my liver all of a sudden, I'm in trouble, right? I can only ignore my liver so much. And so when you push it away, in some cases, it will become angry, right? And not angry like I'm going to mess you up, but angry like I can't believe you would go so far. And the liver, not to kill you, not with the intention of killing you anyway, sits on the sideline, folds its arms and pouts. And without your liver, your life completely gets disrupted. But again, it's not with hostile intent. It can feel hostile. But in the case of the frog, they did not draw first blood, right? You did. Just to be fair. So in Western traditions, this inflamed part of you is typically symbolized by the dragon, like St. George and the dragon, killing the dragon. And the dragon, which really has done no wrong. You're just on a quest, so you go after it, but the dragon's just hanging out, right? Only because it seems repulsive. And there's this connection between the frog and the dragon, because what is a frog but a little dragon? Right? The dragon is the frog when it has been pissed off and literally inflamed. It breathes fire. Um, and you're like, well, it's a dragon. It's universally like that. And it's like, that's not true. In the Chinese tradition, the dragon is this mystical being that you hope you catch a glimpse of, and it might bless you by giving you a scale from its back. And it's never destructive. You're like running after the dragon, saying like, "Take me with you." So in the Western tradition, you're like, "Well, isn't it always repulsive?" And it's like, even there, it's like, no, right? That may be a reality. That may be a reality, but it's not the reality. In the language of 7-day healing, when we do healing, we would call this frog / dragon the lost board member. And for those of you with access to that, we cover that in day 3. Those of you who may have, done the program, but not done day 3, got to day 2 and then stopped, or flew past day 3. If you go back to it, only if you want, and hear the sessions again, you will see exactly what we're touching upon here in the session. So anyway, when we talk about this dragon frog lost board member, we are talking about reconciling with it, recovering with it, bringing it back over to your side, or joining their side, right? Because they care about you and love you too. Your liver is not scheming to like bring the entire firmament of your life down, right? Your liver, your heart, your lungs, your inner dragon, your inner frog has a very clear opinion about what the nature and purpose and meaning and purpose and bliss of your life is. It may not be one that you see nor agree with at this point, but it has a valid vote, right? So the ideal is that you accept its input in good faith, and then together you kind of find a way to move forward together. You reconcile with the dragon, and if you can get there, the dragon then fights alongside you in life, right? Imagine the worst side of you, right? The worst part of you that you were told was the worst part of you when you were a child. You're too sensitive, you're too touchy, you're too talkative, you're too creative, you're too dreamy. And the humiliation it would cause if you actually let this part forward in mixed company. Okay. And that fear of humiliation is power, right? If I have the power to humiliate you, I have power. So this part of you has tremendous power to wreak havoc with what you think your life is supposed to be. But then if you imagine reconciling it, all that terrifying power gets turned around and is at your side, riding shotgun with you, ready to like, do anything and accomplish anything. That's the quick thumbnail of the physics of this frog dragon. So that's the classical pattern. And here, in this gorgeous, delicious, lovely Burmese story, we have exactly the same overall pattern. Instead of 3 brothers, it's 4. That's fine. It's the 4th brother who throws the flower for the wind to catch. The flower is a symbol, of course, of integrated masculine and feminine. I'm referencing things that I've already covered in past sessions, because the flower has intrinsically to itself masculine and feminine organs. It can self-pollinate if needed. So it's a symbol of the fully integrated inner masculine and feminine within you. When you are a flower, you have become whole, right? You can still cross-pollinate with other flowers, but that's all gravy. That's bonus at that point. Even if you are the only flower left, you can still proceed on your own, right? That's full wholeness. You don't have a hole that you're looking for somebody else to fill. And this 4th brother, this 3rd, 4th brother, is typically the one that's not moved by fear, threat, and control, right? That is in the sacred. And it's not clear exactly what he is moved by at the beginning. But in stories like this, of course, it's the dummy brother. It's the 3rd brother, the youngest brother, who is the one that wins the entire kingdom. Literally in Grimm's Brothers tales, the 3rd brother is his name is literally Dummling, which is just a German sort of derivative of dummy, like the weakling. It's not the weakling, it's the dumbling. And he is the one who wins the entire kingdom in the end, in story after story after story, precisely because he followed a power and a path and a guidance that is completely separate from fear, threat, and control. So the breath of the spirit, the wind, guides the flower of your fully integrated self, whole self, anointing the correct bride, which is this frog. Okay. And this happens, mind you, during a hair washing ceremony. Hair is a symbol of desire. Your wildness, your wild intuition, you're feeling what you really want. I mean, there are other things too, but that's like the basis of it. So in corporate situations, you can't have long hair. You have to have short hair, right? I mean, my brain can work just as fine. I can be just as client focused, just as productive. But if I walk around with long hair, it's like, whoa, that's definitely not a company man, right? If you have long hair. Military, the clergy, right? All cut your hair for that precise reason. It's cutting back your own instinct intuition so that you can conform to this other order. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just how the physics work. And so a hair washing ceremony, symbolically, mythologically, is a ceremony where the divine, the inner feminine is brought together. And in order to find the right feminine, we wash our hair. We cleanse our intuition, desire, instinct, this wild part of us. We don't cut it. We cleanse it in order to clarify it, in order to nourish and rejuvenate it. And once it's rejuvenated, then we can say, like, what is the true nature of our desire? What is the true nature of our intuition? Okay. And the wind, the spirit within you. So the wind is you, the flower is you, the hair is you, the maidens are you. All the maidens are you, not just the frog. The frog is the maiden within you that you're like, obviously not her. What are you talking about? How is that even an option? How are you even allowed at the ceremony? It's for ladies, not for you, right? And you don't feel guilty about it. It's like, it's for ladies and you're a frog. What are you doing there? And she's like, I'm going anyway. And she talks her way right through the guards. The guards are just like, I don't know what came over me, but she Jedi mind tricked me. I always end up listening to her in the end. And so with this clarity of vision, desire, and intuition, this frog part of you is chosen. And then the more conscious part of you is like, are you kidding? What the hell? The redo, right? And the beauty of the fourth brother is that he does not ask for a redo, because he is the sort of avatar of the sacred. Right? I asked for guidance. I did this whole hair washing ceremony. This is the result. I accept it without condition. Whereas the elder brothers of fear, threat, and control are like, oh, we lost. Redo, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. Oh, we lost the second one. Okay, one more. Right? And finally the king is, okay, So that's like, you find your bliss, and it's like, well, how are you going to make money doing it? And we take care of that. Oh, so we're making money doing our bliss. But it's not respectable. People will like shame us. It's like, oh, okay, no one's shaming us either. And you're making money. Well, 3 out of 4, 3 out of 4. And you keep coming up with reasons to not do your bliss. And so this is not a shamey, oh, you dumb slobs, you better get with it. It's like the story reflects the pattern of a state of affairs that is so. And these are all very old stories. Right? So it's not just, oh, in modern times we've lost our whatever and we're all like this. No. This has always been the nature of humanity. The muse always comes to you and you always stuff it down. And it seems like a failure. Well, it seems self-defensive at the time, but in hindsight, it seems like a failure. This is just the pattern of how it works. Right? If you get pregnant and it's like, and the physician says, oh, it's going to take about 9 months for the baby to come out. Right? You're not like, oh my gosh, 9 months. Why is it taking so long? It's like, no. This is just the standard thing, and it's okay. Okay. So the key to engaging with these inner forces with you, as we have seen countless times before, even in this series, Sacred Space, is that you can fight with it, you can negotiate it, you can do anything. You can whine, you can complain, you can moan and groan. The only thing that you must do, ideally, and if you don't do it, you will be brought by hook or by crook back to this point, is to engage with it, and ideally to engage with it in good faith. If you finally cave and promise it something, you have to follow through, ideally. And if you don't and you betray it, I mean, it's not going to be the first time, probably won't be the last time, but the forces of life will bring you, sometimes painfully, back to the same point where you get another try. And that's why these stories are so powerful, because we see the symbol. It happens over and over again. And at some point you like see the loop. And not through threat. It's like, I've already betrayed it. I've already taken my punishment in the past. I'm still here. I could do this all day.
Yeah.
And after a while, through your own sovereign choice, not with anyone threatening you, you say, I think I'm just going to stop the loop.
Yeah.
And you trust her all the way, and she gets you through all the trials in a straight shot. No drama, no fuss. You're not even doing anything. Just sit, eat your meal that I cooked for you, wear your clothes that I washed for you. All I need you to do is stay out of the way. You have one job. You have one job, right?
Yeah.
And so the first time Gary read the story to me, I was on the edge of my seat because I had never heard the story. I was waiting for the hammer to drop. I was like, when is this chucklehead going to betray her? Right? Because the final thing where it's like, I will be the most beautiful woman in the world. And she's sitting there, she's a frog. And he's like, okay. I was expecting maybe when she's asleep, he's going to go out and find someone else and bring. Maybe when she's like the second or third time, she's like, okay, I'm still not ready yet. And he's waiting outside. Maybe he would just leave her behind. Maybe he'd lock the door and leave her behind. Right? Something nasty always happens in these, European, Hindu, Indian folktales. Something nasty always happens. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is he going to do? In the Slavic frog princess story, he burns the frog skin without checking with her. And then all hell breaks loose afterward. That's like the midpoint of the story. The second half of the story is how he like claws his way back from that horrible atrocity, right? And in this story, he went all the way through. I was like, at the end, I was like, wait, what? He didn't betray her? He acted completely. I was like, oh my gosh, right? There's finally a story about the frog where like he just plays it straight, goes all the way through, gets the reward in the end, very matter of fact, no fuss, no drama. And it's just so powerful to me, right? The flower alights on the frog maiden. He marries her. No second, third, fourth try, redos. And then she does the same. Because you act in good faith, the other side acts in good faith too. The first trial comes. She says, leave it all to me. She comes through. And you notice who the cheats are, right? He ends up not cheating fabulously. She never cheats. Which actor in the story does not act in good faith? The elder brothers, the jealous sisters. They are the ones who do not deal fairly. And they're part of you too. So the elder brothers typically are the forces of that cater to money, prestige, your status in society, the ones who are trying to protect you from the realms of fear, threat, and control. Sorry, this light is flickering. Is this light bothering you? Can you turn it off? Okay, hopefully. All right, well, just let me know. I don't know why it's flickering.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Flickering isn't too distracting. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when you ask the gods for direction on your meaning and purpose in life, and you ask, so they give it to you. You get a job offer. You meet someone new. You like all this stuff happens to you. This like golden deer, antler deer, shows up at your door and like sails you all the way through the first trial. And what do you say? What do the elder brothers within you say to the younger brother? No. That was just dumb luck. That was just coincidence. That wasn't a thing. Right? It's like, yeah, but we asked for a sign. We got the sign in good faith. And you're saying dumb luck. And they're like, okay, well, maybe dumb luck, maybe not. 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3. Let's just do it again. And you're like, all right. And you fall for it. And then you will go through again. She comes through again. Right? And you betray her again. You say, one more try. One more try. Okay. And so when you trust her the third time, which is a big deal because she's obviously a frog and you're walking her all the way into the palace, it is like a blind leap of faith at that point. It feels like a high stakes thing because you see all this evidence that there is no way this could possibly work. Okay. And it's like symbolically, you're married to her. You know her well. She can't possibly be anything else there is no frog skin. She is a frog. Right? You know this part of you fully, you think. Okay. And part of the beauty of this 3 trials progression is that the third trial is the most kind of, white-knuckled, terrifying one. Okay, but the beauty of having had 2 trials before that is that you have evidence now to back yourself up. When you say, look, it's higher stakes now, but the golden buck deer, that was just as improbable. Right? The meat that is always fresh, the rice that never spoils, that's like not possible. And yet here we are. Right? So this is it's actually not a stretch. If you could do the first 2, why not do the 3? And the only reason you fear the third is because that is an even greater threat to your sense of rationality, right? Because the first 2, it's like, I have no idea how this will work, and it just appears out of nowhere. Here, I can see the linear physical evidence. She is a frog. I am walking her through the gates of a castle that are like, to your rational mind, saying that doesn't work, it doesn't work. So you need the first 2 trials to really get your courage and confidence and trust in her up, so that she can get you through the next level of trial beyond that. We talk about this when we teach about the Muse and in workshops and stuff, where you don't have to just take random blind leaps of faith. Where you say, woohoo, I'm going to drop everything and run off and join the circus and leave all my responsibilities behind. You don't have to do that on the first try, right? When you feel your muse in you, you can test her. You can test her for a decade by giving her small things. She'll bring them to you, maybe in ways you didn't expect, but in hindsight, you'll realize, oh my gosh, she did come through for me. I thought she betrayed me or didn't come through, but she actually did. And then another voice will be like, yeah, whatever, keep going, keep going. But if you actually keep a journal, you will have the evidence that like 10 times out of 10, she does come through for you. Okay. On the small things that are less risky. And then when she brings you the bigger things, you can say, okay, I can still not trust her, but I do have evidence that that I can trust her. Right. And even if you still don't trust her, that's okay. She's the immortal one, right? She has all day. She can do this all day. She's hanging out with you out of love. She's not under any fear, threat, or control. She's deep in sacred space. So if you want to understand how she talks to you, right? If you want the phone connection to be really clear, you get yourself in sacred space so that you can hear her message clearly and not garbled by the forces of fear, threat, and control. Okay. A funny thing that usually happens is when you get to a point where you're really in communion with the muse, and Gary and I joke about this all the time. There is a point at which you don't deny her exactly, but you do forget to call and write, right? You do because sometimes Gary and I will ask each other, well, have you been checking in with the muse lately? And Gary will be like, no. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And the reason is we're so like we have a connection of trust with the muse. We feel her, we understand her when she comes. And that becomes a terrifying thing, because if you actually willingly go back and check in with her, you are checking in with a force that is larger than yourself. You have no idea what she's going to say. No idea what she's going to say. And yet, when she says it, you can hem and haw all you want, but you know eventually you will cave and do whatever she wants. And that is terrifying. And so another level, like the fourth, the fifth try, one more try, is like, well, let's just forget to call in. And the brothers are like, oh, what? Was there a series of trials? Are we picking the king? No. The king can just continue. We'll pull him out of retirement. He'll be king another 10 years. We don't need to do this decision now. Let's do it later, right? All kinds of tricks. And so this is a rule, generally speaking, of fairy tales, mythopoetics. It's not just me, right? So there's a quote that I put on my Instagram a while ago from a book by Heinrich Zimmer, the famed Indologist, German Indologist, edited by his friend, edited posthumously by his friend, Joseph Campbell. And there's a quote in there, and it's like, so Campbell like took all his notes and edited, and they were like two sides of the same brain in a lot of ways. So it's like, is this really all Zimmer? Is this Campbell? Campbell's very modestly saying this is Zimmer and I'm just the editor. Kind of like Gary's like, oh yeah, it's all Artie. I'm just the editor. I'm like, okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to come on screen if you want. Just let me know. Check in with your muse. Let me know. But anyway, there's a quote from the book where he's sharing all these fairy tales from all these different traditions, from the Arthurian, from the Celtic, from the Hindu. And then just very matter-of-factly, he's like, yeah, this Celtic story basically falls in the pattern of the standard thing that all these fairy tales bring out. And you're like, we're all in academic mode. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, what is that? What is that standard formulaic, truism? And then it's like, yeah, the standard thing is basically, and I'll just read this, follow your unconscious intuitive forces blindly. Do not frustrate them with intellectual distrust and criticism, but permit them to move and sustain you. Let me read that again. And here, with the frog princess here, follow your unconscious intuitive forces blindly. Do not frustrate them with intellectual distrust and criticism, but permit them to move and sustain you. And here in Sacred Space, we would add, and if you screw it up, that's okay. There is no fear, threat, and control. Screw it up all you want. Screw it up all your life. And on your deathbed, if you reverse it and you're like, okay, tell me what to do, that is enough. And if you don't do it, there's always the next life or whatever, right? It's going to be okay. There is no fear, threat, and control. To do this, we are in the deepest part of the sacred. And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. It's guidance, not a threat. So follow them with faith. Do not let intellect get in the way. But it's not that you follow with reckless abandon. Like we said, you can test it. When you see people making big leaps of faith in their career, in their relationships, and whatever, you'll ask, how did she have the courage to do that? It is courage, but it's not as much as it seems like. Because when you have this foundational relationship with your muse or whatever you call your higher guidance, it's like a cumulative thing where you know you're going to be fine and you're taking just this much more of a leap of faith. But to an outsider, it looks like you're jumping off a cliff. So this is what the youngest brother does in the story. Now, there's another story called The Frog Princess, the European folktale, where the frog skin also gets burned. It's fascinating. But the difference is that the frog skin was burned by the husband without the knowledge of the princess. The princess leaves her frog skin in their home. In the European, in the Slavic version, It's actually a form of like Princess Vasilisa, right? And Ivan is always like the dumbling third brother. So in that version, she says, for the third trial, which is show me the most beautiful woman in the world, and it's similar. It's he's married the frog. Okay. She says, okay, you go along to the castle first, and I'll be along later. You just wait for me. And so at home, she takes off her frog skin, leaves it in the room, and then goes and she appears, and everyone's like thunderstruck. And so that's how the big reveal happens in that story. And what happens in that version of the story is Ivan, right, her husband, the third brother, after the party, he's won everything, everything's great. He says, okay, and this is the poison kind of tragic, anguished part of it. He's beaten all the brothers. The final betrayal comes from Ivan himself, which is why I was like waiting with bated breath for when he would screw up, and he didn't in the Burmese story. He says, okay, darling, I'm really tired. I'm going to go home first. And she's like, okay, I'll be along later. He goes home. He's alone in the home. And he sees the frog skin on the floor. And he takes it and he puts it in the fire and he burns it. And when she comes home, she's like, oh, it's so great. That was such a great party. And I'm so in love with you. And she's like, oh, where's my frog skin? And he's like, oh, well, I mean, I figured you didn't need that anymore. So I burned it. And she was like, WTF, what did you do? You know, you can't, you know, and there's this whole thing where it's like, if you had only, I needed to wear it for 2 or 3 more nights and then I would have been free of the curse. Now that you've burned it, I need to go away. And she like leaves. And the whole back half of the story is all the things he needs to do to win her back. Okay. And that's a whole other follow-up. We don't have time to do that here. And so in this case, right, the frog skin is also burned. But there is no punishment, transformation, consequence. And so both frog skins get burned. It's like, and you're like, what is the difference between one or the other? And when we read dreams, oftentimes you'll have a dream, and then the very same night or the next night, you'll have the exact same dream, but just with one difference. Okay. And that one difference is the message of comparing the two dreams. And so what is the difference here? The difference is, not to put too PC a word on it, but this is the word. The difference is consent. The difference is consent. When he burned the Princess Vasilisa Frogskin, he didn't ask her. But she's been guiding your hand through all of these like successes. And the last, like, why wouldn't you ask her like this last most important thing, right? And in the Burmese story, all of his biases are on display, right? But he asks her. He prefers her in this mode, not in the frogskin mode. Because in the Slavic story, you could be like, well, you should really love the frog for itself also. And with the contrast of the Burmese story, the implication is like, no, it's okay to prefer the princess in her glorious form. It's okay to prefer not the frog skin. That's okay. What's not okay is to brute force it. So if you would prefer her to be in this form, ask her. Ask her. And in the Lady Ragnell story, that is also part of Mythic Healing and the one we did, the key is to give the inner feminine and the outer feminine, for that matter, sovereignty. Right? Or if you want something, you ask her. And it's like she's already shown she wants to give you everything anyway. But you ask her and she'll tell you how it needs to be. And you follow her blindly. You follow her, and I quote, you follow her, the unconscious intuitive forces, i.e. the inner feminine, your frog, blindly. And you do not frustrate her with intellectual distrust and criticism, but permit her to move and sustain you. Okay. So that's why this Burmese story is such a an explosive blessing and gift to hear, where it shows you what it feels like in the story when he doesn't mess it up, right? She asked her not to wear it anymore, and she consented. And she could just say, yeah, I'll just leave it in the closet. She is the one who takes it and throws it in the fire, never to return. And it's like, he's like, I didn't ask you to burn it. I'm just like, well, I mean, I like you in this outfit, not that outfit. And she's like, fine, I'm cool. I mean, it makes no difference to me, right? And if it makes a difference to you and you ask nicely, then it's no problem. You can have it all.
Yeah, it's almost like the princess was like, "Oh, I thought you'd never ask."
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
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 So for me, like, protecting her sovereignty is the key. She is the muse. She is the compass of your meaning and purpose in life. And one image I always have is like, you hold space for this feminine in you, this muse. And you allow the compass to swing freely in order to get the true north direction, right? It's like simple physics. It's not altruism. It's not chivalry. It's not political correctness. It's just physics, right? He asked the princess for his desire. She could have said no. But he just, whatever the compass turns, he's going to follow it. And so she burns the skin, to me, not as a reward for his faithfulness, but as a continuation of their relationship of mutual trust and desire. An image that was shared with me recently is this dichotomy, this contrast between exchange and like circulation and flow. Hi. And instead of exchanging, like, well, I'll follow you if you burn the frog skin later, it's just flow. I follow you. I'm holding space for you. You spin however you want. Oh, by the way, I do like you without the frog skin. I mean, I like you without condition, but I like it when you're not in frog skin mode. And she's like, oh yeah, fine. She's not doing it to get something in return. He didn't earn it. It's not a reward or a punishment. It's just this continuous flow. The relationship of mutual trust and mutual desire. And I love that. So this is this meta level of easygoing give and take. And so let me just go through a couple of other symbols Gowrie had asked me about in our brainstorm, just so we have it for the record. So one is, why is the muse a frog? So I think this is pretty obvious now, but we have all felt a part of us when we're following money and prestige, the expectations of society and our families, what we're supposed to be doing. And then there are parts of us that don't fit the overall template, right? So we end up trying to find ways to do these things that we need that don't disrupt the template. But this deeper frog always comes back. So in the end, you either flow with this desire within you, or you try to fight it, come to détente, or you try to fully suppress it and then it comes back as a dragon and all hell breaks loose, right? You can use this to make commentary on wars and conflicts with your body in terms of weight or health or performance. You can do, where it's like there's a template you're supposed to follow, and there's a part of your body side of you that it's like, but that's not what I like, right? And you can fight, you can suppress, you can go with the flow. In relationships, monogamy, right, or non-monogamy is a similar kind of thing. It's like, well, if you have this impulse and you stuff it down, you're monogamous, you still go outside the relationship anyway. And there are all kinds of ways to sort of try and force fit into that may or may not work for any given person. In career, there's a career that you're supposed to be following, and there's your actual desire, right? And the usual Chinese dad thing to say is like, well, just do that, make money, and do this thing as a side hobby. Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't, right? If you hold space for your muse, she will tell you. She will tell you. And if you're like, well, if I do what you're telling me, I'm going to starve, she's not, she's the muse. She's powerful. She knows people, right? So if you say, I'll do it, but it's like, I would like to like eat well too. And what do we do about that? She's like, oh, you like to eat well. Well, tell me more. I said, I don't know. I'm not in your dimension or whatever. And you tell her, she's like, oh, well, I can get my cousin or whatever to take care of that too. And you're like, oh, glad I asked. Glad I asked, right? And so, and again, you're like, oh, Artie, this sounds too good to be true. I'm like, just try it, right? I'm not asking you to blow up your life. Just like try on these little things, but keep a record, keep a log, and don't cheat, right? If something happens in response to your request, write it down. You got to give her credit. Not because she needs credit, but because like when the next thing comes that you're being asked to give even a little bit more trust in, and you're like, well, how can you ask me to do that? It's like, well, if you kept a faithful log, you would see the last 5 things you asked for, you got within 3 days. And she's not even like wagging her finger at you saying like, idiot, now you have to trust me. She's like, you don't ever have to trust me. I'm here all week. I'm immortal, right? But when you're ready, right, we're ready to roll. We're ready to roll. So it's this like process of being, process of discovery and negotiation, right? So you're not the slave of the muse. You're like her partner and collaborator. And in a lot of relationships, it's like, it can be in any template. It can be whatever arrangement that works for you, but just, kind of try your best not to be a jerk, right? That's like just actually the general rule. So the trials, Gary asked about the deer and the meat and rice. I'll just touch on these quickly because I want to get Gary in here to share more as well. So a deer is typically a symbol of transformation. The totem of Merlin the magician in the Arthurian cycle. The totem of Merlin is a deer. He would shapeshift into a buck. And this is significant because Merlin is a transformation. He is the transformative agent in that legend. Merlin even engineered the fulfillment of the prophecy of his childhood, right? It's like Merlin is the magician of King Arthur. Merlin engineered the conception and birthing of King Arthur in the first place. So like Arthur's the king and Merlin's his trusty assistant. Merlin is the one in the background making everything happen. Merlin like caused Arthur to exist in the first place. Artemis, her totem animal, is the deer as well. Hermes, Mercury, sort of the trickster agent of transformation, is associated with the deer as well. So gold is a symbol of insight. Okay, so a golden deer is transformational insight. The transformational insight of the story is to let the muse guide you in good faith, to follow her all the way through. Take notes so that when you're scared, you will see the data points that she is reliable and you can put your trust in her. And if you're not paying attention to the scorecard, you're not being a good husband in this metaphor, right? The muse is not a goddess master. The muse is your partner. You have a part to play too in this partnership. If you didn't have a part as a partner, the muse wouldn't need you, right? Why is she even talking to you in the first place, right? If it wasn't a partnership, she would just be out there in the world herself, like making all this stuff happen. It is a partnership and collaboration which works best, as in the case of every partnership and collaboration, where all sides act in good faith. They express their needs clearly, and they follow through on their commitments. And even if they can't, they follow through in good faith and just say so. So that's the deer. And then the meat and rice. When you see food in a dream, it's a symbol of nourishment. Not necessarily physical, but emotional nourishment, spiritual nourishment. Which is why when we talk about sacred space, we talk about it like it's a potluck. We're all coming together to create this like pool of sacred space, emotional and spiritual nourishment, and then we all gorge on it together. It's like unlimited, right? And so what you want here in the second trial is meat and rice that do not spoil and are always fresh. In other words, you want nourishment that endures. Right? Said another way, money and prestige do not satisfy in the long run. Okay. And what the king is asking here is, which one of you has, number one, transformational insight? And which one of you has, number two, emotional and spiritual nourishment that is enduring? And which one of you has, number three? If you're really going to push me to do a third trial, then I'll be very direct instead of like tiptoeing around the issue. Transformational insight, emotional and spiritual nourishment that are enduring. Let's just cut to the chase. Which one of you has the most beautiful woman in the world? Which one of you is partnered with the Muse? Okay. And she is the truest. And again, beauty is not like, oh, Instagram beauty and, sort of that. This is all within you, right? The frog princess Muse is within you. So it's not physical beauty. It's beauty in the sense that, beauty is truth and truth is beauty. So it's this truest inner part of you. The brother who is paired with the right Muse is the right heir to the inner kingdom of your deepest inner self. This is how the kingdom evolves. From an equal horse race across the three brothers, money, prestige, fear, threat, and control, and this seemingly dumb brother who does things at the desire level for no good reason. Right? So the two brothers maybe need and want, and then the third brother is desire. He's off in a dummy way doing things for no good reason. And does he make it all the way through? Because he is the proper heir to the throne. He rules with the Muse at her side. And that's why the tasks are what they are in this case. Okay. That's all my notes.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I was particularly struck as you were telling me this, as to how the characters in the story are kind of laid out, right? There is a kind of a perfect mirror image, so to speak, where you have, the king, his sons on one side, then you have this old couple, the old man, his first wife, who's the true mother, right? And then you have the stepmother and then two sisters on the other side, right? So they kind of balance each other out. They are a mirror reflection of the same thing. And how the elder brothers here are kind of mocking the brother and saying, it's us. Right?
Oh, you cut out.
Time,
you cut out for me. Can you say that last line again?
Sorry. The brothers say that you don't deserve to be king to the youngest brother. They say, you don't deserve to be king. We're going to overtake you because we rightfully deserve to be powerful and hold the power, right? That's on one side. And on the other side, you have the sisters saying the same thing to the princess, right. the little Miss Frog, right? You're just a frog. Right. In fact, even the stepmother, for that matter, you're just a frog. You don't deserve to come to the party. You don't deserve to have fun. We'll stuff you down. We'll keep you in your place. There's no place for you. So it's lovely that it's so neatly balanced out. And in every way, I think we do that in our inner world. On one side, we're showing off all our status and achievements and accomplishments, and we give so much importance to money and how people perceive us and all of that. And the other side, when it comes to our inner feelings, inner desire, inner intuition, we keep suppressing how we truly feel and say, no, there's no place for that. There's no place for our feeling. There's no place for intuition about what we really need to do. And just, push that down and just look for validation and say, look for what the world says is beautiful and just follow that. Right. So all sorts of things, and they're all covered from all angles. And the story just brings that out so well. And ultimately it says it all just comes down to the youngest prince and this little Miss Frog. They're like really like the true crux of the story. And because of this, all of the act in good faith and trust each other, express each other's desires, and just overall beautiful harmony. So that's what matters.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. What else?
There's the other thing about burning the frog skin that I was reminded of. Like you said, we've covered this in the Princess Vasilisa story. We also have another story. It's the Swan Maidens that we covered, right? Where it's not exactly burning the skin and it's not exactly a frog, but the dynamics are very similar. As in, he steals the Swan Maiden's swan robe, the feathered robe,
yeah.
and then kind of hides it so she doesn't get it.
Right.
And that's what makes him lose her, right? And she leaves and he has to go find her again. So there's that element as well. But what struck me when I remembered something was there's another story we've covered, which is the girl who married the snake. There are two things about this story that are so similar to this one. One is that, again, the story starts with this couple who are childless. And when the woman gives birth finally, turns out to be a snake. It's not a human child, right? And very similar to this story, they fully accept it. They love it as their own child and say, okay, you're my son. I will take care of you. And I'll do everything that I would do to a son, right? So I will marry you off to a beautiful girl and, everything that goes with child rearing. I will basically treat you like a human child. So there is that aspect even in this story where the couple initially disappointed, but eventually they kind of accept that this is our daughter and she's sweet and she's lovely and we love her. And then at the end of that snake story, the father burns the skin, right? When he realizes his son is actually in human form, he comes out of the snake skin every night.
Yeah.
And he has all this lovely gold, again, the reference to the gold insight that we have here. Yeah. He wears all these gold jewelry and ornaments, and he looks at that and says, okay, that's it. I'm going to burn the snake skin. And in that session, I'll link to that later. In that session, you had said that when you accept this part of you and you say, I see the full you as you, we don't need the snake skin anymore. Right? We'll do away with it because we've finally come to a place where we fully see you for who you are. And so there's no need for that skin anymore. Right? In that point, I was reminded of that, and that really struck me here as well. Because essentially it feels like the prince is saying the same thing to the frog princess at the end. So, well, I've never seen you like this before, but now that I see you, I see you fully, right? Yeah. I get it, right? There's really nothing more to hide or kind of say it in a symbolic way or whatever, but I just get what you are, who you are. I see you completely. And so can you please not wear the skin?
It's so moving because what's coming to me as you talk about this is I think about friends of mine who are parents and have kids who are gender fluid, trans, non-binary, questioning. And it's just fascinating because one of my own kids is in this category as well. And it's so beautiful because, for a traditional parent, it's like this shock, and then it's like it's any other kind of coming out, right? But there are many parents where after they've gotten used to seeing their child as trans, as gay, as, you know, non-binary, as whatever, right? Whatever the case has been. They come to a place, often, I mean, if they're lucky, where they're like, it's still my child.
Yeah.
Right. He's still sort of super smart, snarky, gives me a hard time. And it's like, you realize that in this case, the sexuality part is an important part, but it's like, actually, you're reminded that it is one part of this person.
Yeah.
And it, like, you realize through the contrast and the changing of the textures and everything, where it's like, yeah, this person isn't exactly what I had assumed, but it is the same person. And it's like, my love is like completely unchanged. If anything, it's like, the more clearly I see this person, the more fully my love becomes. Like a friend of mine described it as like, yeah, now that I've seen him and lived with him, her, them in this state, it's like, yeah, it's them and they're this characteristic. No big deal. It's just like another thing. Which is just so beautiful. And as a result, like this frog skin of anger, of not fitting in, of ugliness, like actually falls away. And it's almost like physically, I wonder if the princess could still be green with skin and all of the rest of it. And what changes is it's your eyes that change. Right. It's not necessarily the physical. I mean, it's within you. So like the eyes and the physical are one and the same. And in religions, right, in the Christian New Testament, when Christ says, like, you know, those who have eyes to see, those who have ears to hear, he's basically like, you know, you're either going to get this or you're not. And I'm just going to say it so that the people who get it will not be deprived. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was telling you this, right? This whole realization that I had about the whole frog skin thing, and that in the last couple of weeks, like I was sharing with you the other day, I had this very sudden, completely out of the blue insight from the Muse, I think. Well, she said, you know, you really should go get clinically assessed for this condition. It came completely out of the blue. It completely shook me up because it was so unexpected, but it was also huge. Because if this was really true, then this unlocks a key to a big mystery, a big part of my life that hasn't made sense to me for so long. And, you know, everything will become clear. I just needed to know. And so I went and got myself tested and, you know, all of that. And I mean, the whole, you know, the clinical word for it or the medical condition aside, what it really came down to when I completely immersed myself into it to understand what this was, is that the trait that I was struggling with and gave me all these challenges that I was, you know, struggling to cope with. The root of all of this, the trait, is hypersensitivity. You know, that's basically what it is. It came down to that. And I was like, okay, that's good. But the first time I came across that word, I took a step back and I just looked at that word again and again and again. And I thought, really, is this what it is? Hypersensitivity. Because I just wanted to laugh out loud, but it got stuck somewhere in the throat because all of that brings to the table and what I've been struggling with has been given many, many labels, you know, by the outer world, by me.
And shaming labels.
The shaming labels that have come with it are basically incompetence, stupid, lazy, unreliable, uncaring,
selfish.
Selfish, and mostly incompetent. But the big word that's always come with it is insensitive. And that's why when I looked at
so ironic.
I just wanted to laugh, right? Because really, so this is like a classic illustration that you can give to what the frog skin is and what the beautiful maiden is, right? Because the one hiding, it's always like the frog skin is so ugly, but what it hides within it is the most beautiful woman on earth. Like, really, like, it's that diametrically opposite. So you have the frog skin called the label called insensitivity, and what it's really covering on the inside is this trait called hypersensitivity, which in itself is neither good or bad. But if you really want to assess it in a good or bad sense, it could only be good, because it brings so many things that you could work with, and it gives you guidance on how to use this, for your path of bliss. Really come in handy. So in and of itself, it's just there, right? It's neither good or bad. It's just there.
Yeah.
It's who you are. But then if you would like to walk on the path of bliss, there's so much it can add to what you can do. And I was thinking, so this is basically the real, maiden under the frog skin. And the frog skin is all that you call it, because you don't want to see the real thing inside. Again, not maliciously. I don't think anyone maliciously puts on a frog skin on their real selves. There are many, many reasons, as we kind of uncover. Self-defense is one thing. Or, self-discovery is another thing. You really haven't just explored that part of you, and just you don't know how. So there could be many, many reasons why that happens. But essentially what it comes down to is that once you call something with a label and you put on the frog skin, it's like you go blind. You don't realize that it's just a frog skin. You start to believe that that's a frog. It's like how it was with the prince. He believes that she's a frog. So there is just no way she can turn into a beautiful woman.
Right.
And it's almost like self-confirming when he opens the door and hoping, no, this can't happen. This really can't happen. He opens the door. Yeah, it doesn't happen. She is still a frog. She comes out and see? I mean, how could this happen? Right? So you keep affirming and believing, and there's this blindness around it that this is just a frog. It's not frog skin, it's a frog.
Right.
But ultimately what leads to that big reveal, which was so powerful for me, is that he still goes along anyway. He just trusts her so much that she said, show me off to the world. I mean, I'm a frog. I'll be in this frog version of me, but show me off to the world anyway. And he does it. That, to me, I felt like this is so powerful. Like, would I have the courage? Would I have the courage to go out in the world and say, this is my frog, and I'm showing off my frog? And would I ever have that vulnerability? Would I ever have the courage to do that?
Yeah.
If I did, what comes out, like, oh my God.
Right.
I wouldn't know what to expect.
I've had similar,
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
It's just, wow. And I mean, someone says thin skin, oversensitive. There's been that extreme too. Oversensitive. Oh, don't be so sensitive. You're just too sensitive.
Yeah, you're oversensitive and you're insensitive.
And you're insensitive. Like, make up your mind. I don't know what it is.
That's the bully. Those are the elder brothers and sisters talking.
Yes, those are the elder brothers and sisters. So they go, you have no place here, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. So what would you be called to do? That's the curious question for me, that you asked me first, and when we were brainstorming, and I was like, wow, that is a big question. It's not an easy question at all. And when you asked that in the session, I want to share something that happened immediately after asking that question. But
Please.
It's a huge thing to kind of have that courage and be like the youngest prince and say, regardless of how I'm going to be ridiculed, I think I might be, because I'm taking a frog along with me to show off as the most beautiful maiden. I might be ridiculed, might be laughed at, I might be thrown out of the court for being such a troll, right? Regardless of what happens, but because you said take me to the king, I'm going to do just that. And not drag the frog skin along. I'm not going to say no. I will still continue to say that this can't be, and you're a frog, and you're all of these things. You're insensitive, you're incompetent, you're stupid. I'm not going to say that. Just at that moment when I'm supposed to show you off to the king, I'm just going to stand there and be there, right? That I think is, wow, that's something I'm going to carry with me. This is the guiding principle for me from that story. If I feel like chickening out or something, I think I'm going to be the youngest prince and say, I'm just going to stand the ground and say, this is what I was called to do.
It's interesting. Something that's coming to me is the fact that the trial right before this one was the rice that never spoils and the meat that is always fresh. And we talk about this as as we've already said, nourishment, emotional nourishment, spiritual nourishment. And it's almost like you get to a point with, let's just keep calling her the Muse, where you're like with her, maybe you're not fully open to the world yet, but you're getting so much nourishment from her. In your journaling, in your inner transformation, in everything you're benefiting from it, that if and when you finally share with the outer world, you're doing it not as an act of courage, but as an act of big chi, da chi, magnanimity, right? Where it's like, it's almost, you feel guilty keeping this just to yourself.
Yeah.
And if everyone doesn't want it, it's like pearls before swine, right? If they don't want it, that's fine. It's like more for me. It's funny. I was telling a friend, like, my kids have never had food issues. They've never been picky eaters, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to make you this thing that I really like. And if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. I'm going to eat it, or your cousins will eat it. and I'm like, the cousins, I like, stay back. This is hers. And it's just like, yeah, there's no pressure, but it's like, it's really good. If you don't want it, I'll finish the rest of it. Yeah. And of course, my kids to this day, when I'm like in the corner eating something, they're like, what are you eating over there? What is that? I'm like, nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like this second trial of, I definitely had this experience when I was just considering teaching meditation. And then a few years later, considering like teaching healing, where, those of you who have been with me on like in person, which I've told the story in person, and but it's just like, I'm like, no, that's going to be like embarrassing, humiliating. It's not my personal brand. I'm not going to talk about healing. And finally, it was just so rich in the sorts of nourishment and healing for myself that when triggered by an outside person, like, you know, I started sharing it out of just, you know, I don't know if compassion is the right word, because that still makes it so noble, right? But it's just like, gosh, if I don't share it with this person that's asking, it's like, how am I even a person? Like in Chinese, it's like, there's this phrase that's like, how are you even a human, right? If you're going to do, it's like, it's so inhuman. Like, how can you even be a human if you don't do this? And so I started sharing it. And after that, I just started sharing it more broadly. Even now in the current moment, I'm like at a point in my life where there's like the next thing beyond healing that I'm realizing is like completely transformative to me. And it is a frog. It is a frog. I'm like, I'm not going to talk about this publicly. This is like, the world doesn't need this. The world's not ready for this. I can keep it, you know, just for me. So we'll see how long that lasts. But I'm not going to brute force it. I'm going to keep it until, I don't know, until it's the right time, I guess.
You kind of, it's not even, I think it's not even a question of keeping it or not, because like you said, once you see it fully for what it is, you only see that, right? You don't see the skin anymore, right? You just see exactly what it is because your eyes have been opened.
Yeah.
And then there's no question of hiding it, because, you know, wherever you go, you take it along with you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, there's no question of hiding it. There's no question of, so it's just amazing for me that just, you know, burning off the frog skin, for instance, when we're talking about this, unleashes all of this. It's not that, you know, the princess will now show up only when there is a trial, or only when somebody sets a task and, you know, the prince doesn't know what to do. And then you ask, okay, can you help me? And she will come through and do that. But the final, when you see her and accept her and say, okay, this is who she is.
Yeah.
She's always there after that.
Yeah, she's the queen. She's running the kingdom with you.
She's running the kingdom. She becomes queen in her, you know, true form. And then you think, it's amazing. What can she do? I mean, what will she do to the kingdom itself?
Yeah.
Right? Now that she's in charge. And it's scary, like you say, it's terrifying.
Yeah. They call it happily ever after, but it's also terrifying.
Yeah. It's scary. So the thing that I was reminded when, again, you were talking about all of this is there was a time when you were teaching meditation, right? And I was learning meditation from you at the time. And you said the same thing at the time, where you can give little tasks to your monkey mind genius, as you called it.
Yes.
Right? You can give tasks to your monkey mind genius, you know, keep it engaged so it doesn't bother you too much during meditation, but at the same time, sort of build this relationship of trust and desire. Ask what you want, ask what's worrying you, and see if your monkey mind genius comes through and gives that to you. So you know that you can trust it. It's guidance, it's advice. And this amazing thing is, and also go back and, you know, so tick the boxes once it's done and give credit. And after a few days, you said, well, I mean, it looks like you've been asking things one after the other, and it's all just coming through. Every single thing you ask is done. Do you think you should have like an appreciation day for your monkey mind genius? Yeah. And I said, yes, I think I do. How could I not think about it? And yes, monkey mind genius. I've started to think that monkey mind genius is just another name for the muse, because it's just there was a time during meditation where I was at first talking to the monkey mind genius in my mind, which was just not something I could visualize, but I could talk to. But eventually, I started to see images. And every time the image was different, but ultimately the image kind of solidified into the image of a woman. So for me, then it was like, okay, so this is what you look like. Okay, that's cool. And very, very surprisingly for me at the time, the woman looked very much like me, but not entirely like me. So I was like, okay, so we're friends now. So this is a friend, and I know what she looks like. So I've come to believe that that's the muse, and she has that form. She can take any form, but she takes this form. So you told me that, okay, let's have this appreciation day. You should do something in appreciation. And I said, oh, okay, that's a wonderful idea. And I went back to her. And I said, I have absolutely no clue, because we just got to know each other. We're just like new friends.
Yeah. What do you like? Yeah.
I have no idea what you would like for your birthday or something like that. Or if I were to throw a party, I have no idea what you would like. So if I were to do this appreciation day, what would you want to do? And what would you like me to do? And I was absolutely stumped by the answer, which came just pat like that. And the answer was, talk to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I already do that. Like, I'm doing that now, right?
Yeah.
What's the big deal? There's got to be something else. There's got to be something like that's exciting or more special than that, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, just
Nope.
yeah, I need to do that. But just talk to me. And that's like, it didn't seem like a big deal, but it actually is, because it's not easy to talk to the muse every day and then find out what she wants you to do for her. So it's kind of, again, we're getting into the terrifying realm.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. I'm just writing some notes here as it's coming.
Yeah. So she actually kind of gives you the purpose that you're always looking for. You're saying, I need some purpose in life, and she actually gives that. But at the same time, the irony is that we kind of hoping she won't, because it's too scary.
Right.
Yeah. But there is just no other way. This is just asking her directly is about the only way.
Yeah, for those of you who have done like meditation stuff and monkey mind, I want to add one small point, which is in the beginning, the monkey mind and muse will feel very different. I totally agree with what Gary has said, that they're interchangeable, but to me, the extra detail is that that's after a point. Because in the beginning, the monkey mind is more taking care of you, getting stuff done, protecting you. I mean, the bullies are part of monkey mind, where it's like, you better meet the expectations of society or else you're going to not be worthy of love. So I'm going to pound you, and I'm going to pound you to like pay the parking meter on time. And I'm going to pound you to, lock the doors at night so you're protected. And the muse is like, yeah, but can you even hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. I can't tell by your life. I don't think you can hear me. But we need to go in this other direction. And I think what happens is when you start going in that direction, the two converge. Because you can still be safe and loved and pay your taxes and, eat your meals every day and take care of your family and loved ones and be following your bliss and meaning and purpose in life. there's no set formula, because that's in the abstract. It's an embodied in your body kind of thing. And the reality of your body and your fingerprints and everything is that it is unique to you.
Yeah.
So it is your own unique path, but that's a feature. That's not a flaw, right? Because then what you prosecute, what you pursue in life as you converge these things and sort of explore all these things, is to figure out what is the meaning and purpose in life? How will you do all these things? What is actually unique to you? What feels good to you in your body?
Yeah.
To fulfill and express the work of art that is your life, that is unique. And so in the beginning, they feel very different, but in the end, I mean, I don't know if they're, is she divine or a part of you? I mean, the lines are blurry at that point. It depends on what level you're looking at things at. But the interesting thing is, as you change your level and you see things differently, what you see from up here and what you see from down here are completely consistent.
Yeah.
Like the physics, once you're up here, you're like, oh, I saw it that way because of whatever, but it doesn't change the physics. The physics are still the same, which is very reassuring. It's like you're looking at things from a 360-degree different angle, and you see different aspects of them, but the underlying physics are like perfectly consistent.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so brilliant to like see things from a Slavic and Northern European and all these different things. And then you come in with this Burmese story, and it's like the details are different. The aspect that's being teased out forward is different, but the underlying physics are like perfectly consistent by my reading anyway.
Yeah. So would you like to share the exercise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exercise. Okay. So for the exercise, okay, so we've done sessions on like how to find your bliss, how to find your meaning and purpose, and we've been doing this stuff for a while, folks. Okay, so we've been doing this for 2 years, and when Gary asked me about the exercise, I'm like, I'm kind of feeling my chops here. If you want the basic stuff, you can go back and look at the other sessions. But let's get moving here. So we should do an exercise along the lines of this. And again, fourth principle, no expectation of participation. It's just a suggestion only if you want. If you don't do this exercise, you're not missing out on anything. It will come back to you if and when you're ready. And yeah, no pressure. It's all just for fun, only if you want. But for your own muse, the voice within you that says, do this. And if you're like, yeah, Artie, I don't know if I have a muse. It's like, that's okay. That's okay. You can bookmark this, come back to it when you're ready. But for now, we've been doing this 2 years. For your own muse, the voice within you that says, do this, only in a whisper, only in a gut feel, a random back of your mind intuition. The Germans call it Hintergedanke, thing in the back of your mind, a hunch that says these things to you over the course of your lived life. There have been times when you have heard the call of the muse and tried to follow her. Okay? We've all had this. And for instance, taking a job that's still, in line with social expectations, money, prestige, or whatever. But between two jobs, you're like taking this job because secretly between you, me, and the wall, it's actually more compatible with my bliss, which we're not going to tell anybody. But if you're like, why are you picking this job? It's like, oh, because it pays more money. It's like, actually, the salaries are the same. Oh, are they? I'm sorry. It's because, and you come up with something. But really the hidden reason, even hidden from yourself, is that it allows you more room for your bliss in your life. Or random thing. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. Accepting a coffee date with a person without even knowing what was in it for you. Saying yes to a trip, even though you're like, I'm not really interested in seeing that monument or whatever, but I'm going to go anyway. accepting a project that didn't have a lot of money or prestige attached to it, saying yes to a call, a meeting, or whatever. Okay. Where you were like drawn to do it for no good reason. And the exercise is this: to just set a timer for 5 minutes and quick fire, just like dump out as many of these incidents as you can. And mind you, when you start, it'll be like, well, there was this thing the other day where I was like this. Does that count? If you have to ask, does it count? It counts. So write that down. If you only come up with one, that's fine. After you come up with the one, just sit there and sit with it. Just give it a minute. This is not a mode we're usually in. So just give it a minute. Let the juices get warmed up and going. And then after 5 minutes, it may start flowing and you'll write down 9 or 10 more, like even from childhood. Or even like what made you decide to go to this school, not that school? Or to play this instrument, not that instrument? Or to go on this date, not that date, right? Okay, so you have a list of 9 or 10 things, or 30, right? Depending, doesn't matter. And next to that list, and some of these have happened years ago. It's not just last week. Some of these happened years ago. And what I'd like you to do then is write next to each item. And I'll just say this in very bald-faced terms. We don't need to like tiptoe around this anymore. It's been 2 years. Next to each item, I would like you to write, in your honest opinion, when I actually did this, did the muse screw me? Or did she do me right? Just honestly. And even if it's like, yeah, she really screwed me when I did this, then I would say, well, then what happened after that? And eventually it's like, oh, wow, okay, she did me right. It cost me more than I would have otherwise liked to pay. It was painful as F, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, I'm like, okay, if you're asking me ultimately, did she? Fine, she did me right. Next time, I would like it to be less painful, if you please. And it's like, well, that's a separate question. We can negotiate that separately, right? Yeah. We're just asking basically, did she screw you or did she do you right? Did she do you right? And then the style points of how she got there, that's a whole other bit of physics. Yeah. And then to look at your tally and say, what's the tally? Did she screw me 90% of the time? 10% of the time? 0% of the time? For those of you who are like, she screwed me all the time, it's like, that's okay. You can have a conversation with the muse and say like, okay, what's going on? We're clearly missing signals here.
Yeah.
That's actually, in some sense, the easier scenario. The scary as F scenario is where you realize it's like 100% of the time she was right. And that's terrifying. Because the next time the muse calls you, you have no idea what she's going to say. And even so, how are you going to say no? How are you going to say no? Okay. Yeah, we're at time. So if you missed it, there's the replay. You can go back to the replay.
Yeah.
And again, no fear, threat, or control. You do not have to do this exercise. If you don't do it, you're not missing out on anything. If you need to do it at some point, the muse will like put it back in front of your face. Don't worry. There's no escaping from the muse anyhow. And so that's why I'm like, no fear, threat, or control. Do it however you want. Everyone's like, oh, you're so like loose and sacred and you're holding space for me. It's like, yeah, I'm holding space for you. It's all good. Because it's like the muse owns your ass anyway. Run all you want.
Yeah. I mean,
have all the sovereignty you think you have. I don't need to enforce it. Like you don't need to talk to me, talk to her. And she's like holding a big stick behind me.
I was particularly struck by, again, the similarities between the Frog King and this story in that, in this story, regardless of all the shaming, regardless of everybody trying to tell her, you stay out of the gate, this party is not for you.
Yeah.
She just keeps following around until she gets noticed by the prince, and until she makes her way through, until the posy of Jasmine's falls on her. Like, she's so persistent, right? And
it all just works out somehow.
It all just works out, even in her frog skin, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. And even in the Frog King story, where, you know, the princess, the frog makes a deal, I'll bring you the golden ball from the well, and, you know, if I do that, will you let me inside your castle? So he kind of negotiates his way in.
Yeah, and she completely screws him, right?
Yeah, she does not act in good faith. But that does not matter. He persistently keeps following her around everywhere, right?
Yeah. So, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reassuring thing is, whether it's in the skin of a frog or whether it's in its true form, it will follow you around. It just never leaves you. It will be persistent in wanting to come through and make its voice felt. It's like, yeah, there's no way you're going to throw it out of the window. That's not going to happen. Right? Yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Well, I was just going to say the sort of deeper physics here, not to freak anybody out, is that it's like Merlin is the frog or the muse, right? And someone asked, does a muse show up as different genders? Yes, absolutely. The muse can do whatever she wants. But the core chassis is feminine.
Yeah.
Not because feminine is better, but I mean, just look at the human body. We start off as females, and then some of us, you know, draw the short straw and go off and be males. And that's fine. That's fine, right? So yeah, she can appear in any way. But the deeper sort of secret here is that it's like saying what you just said to me is like, yeah, it's amazing how Arthur sort of doesn't listen, does listen, and then Merlin is always there and persisting and always, you know, saves Arthur at the last minute and everything. And the reality from the beginning of the Celtic Arthurian cycle is that Merlin was like the sort of catalyst of all of this. Merlin is the one who, like, you know, shape-shifted Uther Pendragon into the form so he looked like the husband of Arthur's mom. So that she would agree to have sex with him because she thought he was her husband, and then give birth to Arthur because that was the fulfillment of the prophecy. And Merlin the Muse made this is all within you. This is all within you. Merlin the Muse made all this happen to create Arthur in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like this weird thing of like, how come I even exist as who I am? And I have this natural ziran, this bliss flow within me of wanting to be a healer. Oh, and look, I have this muse who's like egging me on to be a healer and supporting me in this. And it's like part of the secret is like you could say in a manner of speaking, she's the one who like conspired to like get me here in the first place. Yeah. You know, and there are other ways that it's like soul contract and you agreed and blah, blah. There's different ways, but it's like, if it all seems a little too cute that it's like, if I look within and I have this bliss that's in this direction and, oh my gosh, look, here's a mentor muse here to help me. And the thing she's telling me to do also happens to be in this direction. You know, it's not just coincidence. There's a larger pattern within which all of this is like perfectly consistent. That's all.
Yeah, and even you know, to respond to something that someone said, even when we say yes to something because the money is good, like I take up a job because the money is good, I may just be saying that on the outside, you know, to convince myself and to convince the, you know, the socially conforming side of everything.
Yeah.
But if I just probe myself within, and this could happen, the real reason why I say yes to the job might be something else, right? I know that I took up a job once with a publishing company. I was in an entirely different industry before, and I took up this job, moved for a cut in my salary. And the only reason I took up the job was because I like the smell of books. Like that was the reason to take it up. And I wouldn't say that to anyone. But I said, "Oh no! There is really amazing growth prospects in this industry, and all of those kind of things." I told everyone that, but the thing that really clinched it for me is when I walked into the room for the interview, and there were like all these bookshelves and full of new books, newly printed books. It's a publishing company. The smell of books was just so good. I was like, I want to work here.
And you paid for that. You paid for that.
Yeah,
you took a lower salary.
I took a lower salary for it. So so we may not always say out loud that I'm doing this for no good reason,
even to ourselves.
Even to ourselves, we may be justifying it that I'm doing this for the money, I'm doing this because I like this and all of that. But if we probe in, there might be something more to that. So I mean, that's always interesting to explore.
And if this exercise doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to do it. It's perfectly. Don't worry.
Right.
All right. Should we get going? We're at time.
Yeah. Thank you, Artie. Thanks so much. I'll just.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So I should go ahead. We've done our exercise. We should go ahead and close the session. Gary, thank you again, as always. So our next session is next month. I'll put the link up on Crowdcast and on Facebook. It's free, open to the public. Invite friends only if you want. So we'll see you all in about a month. And for this session, then I will go ahead and close the session. So I hereby close this session of our shared sacred space. Thank you for holding this space with me and with us. And thank you for sharing the nourishment, the emotional nourishment, and the spiritual nourishment of our shared sacred space together. I give you my blessing. Go in peace, bestowed with blessing, free of fear, free of threat, and free of the undue control of others. Thank you so much. Happy Sunday, and I will see you all in the next session. Thank you. Thank you.